We have electricity that is 4 or 5 times more expensive for Brits than Americans.
Everybody that I've seen that's got their new water bill are fuming with it because it's gone up by over £200 a year.
It is not sustainable to have energy prices in this country of 4, 5, 6 times that of the United States.
Can they really increase my payment by 260%? Like, are they allowed to do that? What can I do in this situation?
Everybody in the UK is just scraping to get by. The cost of living is through the roof. You don't get much for your money. And on top of that, you are taxed so much on everything. Like, you can barely breathe without being taxed in the UK.
Welcome back to Unfiltered Brits. Energy bills are up, taxes are up, and apparently so is the government's sense of bloody humour, because it's getting harder to tell if this is economic policy or some sort of social experiment. From rising utility costs to vanishing paychecks, Brits are feeling the squeeze. If you're tired of watching your bills rise faster than your wages, like, subscribe and drop a comment, because your voice really does matter. Now let's get into what the people of the UK are really saying.
Has anyone else had a massive issue with British Gas? Honestly, I'm just fuming. So back in November of 2023, and yes, this is how long it's gone on for, they gave me a bill, a 3-month bill of £4,500. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I don't live in an office block, so I knew that wasn't fucking possible. So I argued I disputed the payment, and they basically came back and said, don't worry, you don't owe £4,000, you actually owe us 7. And I was like, as in like 7 grand. And I'm like, well, that can't be right, my loves. And it went on and on and on. And it got to August and I ended up putting in a complaint and leaving them for another company. They then sent me a final bill of 2.5 grand, which, don't get me wrong, better than 7, but I just knew it still was incorrect. So once again, I argued it again and it ended up going to the Ombudsman. Finally, in January, they ended up resolving the complaint, and they worked out that my final bill actually meant that they owed me £400. So they paid me back that £400 in January. Now we're going to fast forward to the end of February. I just got a bill from them saying that I owe them £70. And while yes, £70 is not that much, I know that they've just paid me £400 in January. So why the hell would they now say that I owe them 70 quid? So I've called them and disputed the funds, and once again they've said, oh yeah, sorry, it was a mistake with my account. But I just wonder how many people have received these incorrect bills and just paid the payment, because if I had just done what they said and just adjusted to the payments and paid them back, I would have been out thousands of pounds by now. And I'm not gonna lie, when I got that bill through the other day of 70 quid, it went through my mind oh, I may as well just pay it so that I don't have to deal with them again. How many people are paying more than what they're supposed to? This is your sign. Don't just if you see a bill and you think it's high, argue it, because they clearly do not know what they are talking about.
What if we refuse to pay?
We will not raise income tax. We will not raise national insurance. We will not raise VAT.
You are taxed 45% before you see your wages. You pay 10% national insurance tax. When you go to buy something, you're taxed 20%. If you sell something you own, you're taxed again.
Online sales platforms like eBay, Etsy and Vinted have until tomorrow to tell the tax office what many of their sellers earned last year. The demand has been called a side hustle tax.
And if you want to buy a home, you pay a stamp duty. If you drive, you have to pay road tax, ULEZ, congestion charge and fuel tax. Living where you live, you must pay council tax.
You're declining to take the opportunity to say that council tax will not increase, so I can put it to you that it will increase.
None of our plans require a tax rise.
When you die, there's up to 40% inheritance tax on your assets.
On the question of inheritance tax, look, I do understand that it's causing concern.
Even 75% of your pension is taxed.
We have found a £22 billion black hole in the economy, and we've got to fix it.
Look at these legal robberies.
We're not going to raise tax for working people. And it wasn't just the manifesto. We said it repeatedly in the campaign. And we intend to keep the promises that we made in our manifesto.
So in today's budget, I am announcing an increase in employers' national insurance contributions.
April the 1st, once again, they're increasing taxes, making the cost of living even worse.
Millions of workers will start paying higher national insurance from today as the government tries to raise billions of pounds to pay for better health and social care.
Where's the surprise?
What if we refuse to pay?
Where's the rabbit out of the hat?
Join us and flip the system.
Alright, now this person might have said the realest thing I have read on the entire internet. Soon we'll start paying tax for air. Let me know what you think. Is tax too high, or is it perfectly balanced?
I've got some bad news. You're probably going to get poorer this year. There's a stat that's just come out that for the bottom 40% of households, living standards probably aren't going to reach 2022 levels until 2028. And for everyone else, it's not going to get that much better either. The only people who are doing well at the moment are the rich, the top 10%, particularly the top 1%. It's not really supposed to work like this. You know, capitalism functions because it's based on this deal between those at the top and everyone else that their lives are going to get better. The whole bargain that was made in the 1980s was between politicians and everyone else. They said, don't look at inequality, don't look at corruption, don't look at corporate greed, just focus on the fact that your house is going to treble in value over the next several decades. And for a while that worked, but it basically broke down during the financial crisis. And since then, there just hasn't been an answer. The only people who are responding to this crisis is basically the far right. And they're saying blame migrants, blame benefit scroungers. And the left hasn't really got an answer for that. And I'm not convinced that we can just fight back against this with videos on TikTok, despite the fact that I'm doing one right now. Because for every one video we put out debunking things, there's 4 spreading more lies. I really think we need to meet people where they are. In their communities, in their workplaces, on the streets, show how we fight back against this model by organizing, by getting people together in their workplaces to demand higher wages, by getting communities together to fight back against rogue landlords. That is exactly what we've got to do.
Now have the highest electricity prices in the world. Okay, the developed world or whatever. And, that means we have electricity that is 4 or 5 times more expensive for Brits than Americans. Mm-hmm. Electricity is an absolutely vital part of many businesses, not just steel makers with electric arc furnaces and that kind of thing, but AI, data centers have to use electricity, etc. So it is lethally economically suicidal to have pushed electricity prices up to the degree that we have. And there is an attempt going on by the government and its chums in the crony capitalist unreliables industry to pretend that this is nothing to do with lovely cheap renewables. They've been saying that renewables are cheap for so long that they think it's true, but it's not.
It is not sustainable to have energy prices in this country of 4, 5, 6 times that of the United States. There is no prize for being the first country in the world to decarbonize. I said it to Philip Hammond when I was a junior Treasury Minister, when Theresa May was trying to push through net zero 2050, and it's as true today. It is unilateral economic disarmament. It is impoverishing people in our country, and it's further deindustrializing what remains of our industrial base. This has to end.
Right, British Gas must be having my life, because I've just had an email saying that they want to put my direct debit up and increase it by 260%. What the hell? So, a bit of a backstory. I bought my house in June. We switched energy suppliers in August, I think, or that was kind of how long it took for us to get our first bill and stuff. We went with British Gas. We've got a smart meter. We live in a 3-bed, semi-detached house. There's 2 of us and we both work from home. So they filled all the stuff out online and they said that they think that we're going to pay £95 a month. So that's what we paid. I'm thinking everything's hunky-dory. I've got my smart meter. It's sending my readings every day. I'm trying not to put my heating on, but I am a cold girly and I do like to rack the heating on. I don't like to be sat suffering. So anyway, I checked my account. We get our first bill, I think, on the 1st of September. Checked my account and it was £50 in debt. So I thought, oh, not great, but I know that you always, it's quite common to rack up debt in winter and then it clears off by summer because you obviously use less energy. I thought, not worried about that. I'll check it again next month. I've just been billed again and I'm now only £25 in debt. So I thought, buzzing, it's obviously going, it's balancing out. I'm not using as much as I thought, as they thought. My £95 a month I'm happy with, and it's going to get me through the winter month. But British Gas had other plans. So next minute I get an email from British Gas telling me that my direct debit is increasing from £95 to £265 effective as of the 1st of November. Yay! But can they actually do this? I'm now in less credit than I was in. I've only been with them a few months. I've not really had that long for them to figure out how much energy that I'm using. So can they really increase my payment by 260%? Are they allowed to do that? What can I do in this situation?
This is why I left the UK permanently, and I'm never going to return. I live in Thailand now. I've lived here for the last 2 years, but I actually left the UK 6 years ago, and there's so many reasons why I will never return. Number one, it's just a miserable place to be. The sky is always grey, it's raining almost all of the time, sometimes even in the summer, and it affects the mood of the people, so it makes people miserable. I enjoy being in sunshine, and I don't like waiting to go on holiday every time to do it. I want to literally live in this condition. The second thing is everybody in the UK is just scraping to get by. The cost of living is through the roof. You don't get much for your money. And on top of that, you are taxed so much on everything. Like, you can barely breathe without being taxed in the UK. Whereas there are countries like Thailand where your money goes a lot further and you can live a really good quality of life. And the final thing is safety. In the UK, you cannot walk down the street without the fear of your phone getting snatched out of your hand. And as a woman, I would not walk alone at night in the UK, whereas here I feel so safe. Never had anything stolen. I've never had any sexual harassment in the street from men. I feel so safe here, and why would I want to go back to a place where I feel unsafe, where it's always grey and where I've got no money because I'm being taxed so heavily?
Take a look at this. I would love to pack up and leave the UK, but what work would I be able to pick up in another country? It's the worry of finding a job that prevents me from leaving. And I feel like this is a lot of people's circumstances. They want to leave, but because it might be difficult to get a job somewhere else, they're trapped.
So just a little bit more proof that everything is linked and the government are moulding laws to suit their own agenda. Back around election time, they put the Employment Rights Bill through. It made some changes to zero-hour contracts, but it brought up Section 18, which I called a ban, because it was basically saying that if you're in a restaurant or a pub and you have a private conversation with your friend, and staff overhear it or anyone else overhears it and they find it offensive, or if they just don't particularly want you in there, this law says that once the staff report that to their manager then has a duty of care to the staff and other patrons to remove the people who are apparently having the offensive conversation or whatever it is they're doing that these people find offensive. Now, everyone, when I brought that up, all said, nah, they'll never be able to enforce this, blah, blah, blah. Have a look at this behind me. This is a statement released by Hawksmoor Steakhouse after they asked a certain group of individuals to leave their restaurant. As you can see here, on Thursday, a public figure was asked to leave one of our restaurants because guests and staff felt uncomfortable and had complained. Now, you tell me, right, if this went legal or anywhere like that, they wouldn't invoke this Section 18. That is exactly what it was designed for. So that if there's someone in your place that you don't agree with their political views, and I know it says it's not political, but come on, it was. It clearly was. You can just eject them now, and you're backed up by the law.
You're saying to this committee that you're not admitting that British Gas has had failings in the forced installation of prepayment meters.
I need to see the result of the investigation.
That's astonishing, isn't it, Mr. O'Shea?
The UK's biggest energy suppliers, including British Gas, are facing a £70 million reckoning after Ofgem exposed a shocking scandal involving prepaid meters. Now, justice is landing in the form of cold, hard cash. Payouts of £40 to £1,000 per household and £13 million in energy debt wiped clean.
How much of your £3 billion in profits have you allocated to compensation for the victims of your actions?
If we identify that we have acted incorrectly, I've been very clear, we will make that right.
And they've put in a new code of conduct to stop this abuse from happening again. Ofcom say suppliers failed vulnerable customers on a massive scale. So if you got forced to get a prepay meter, you may be owed some money. Contact your supplier now. Don't wait. Do it today.
That most people that aren't paying their bills is because they can't afford to pay them.
I'm going to share with you a scary statistic. According to Martin Lewis, 14% of people have considered taking their own lives due to the cost of living crisis. That number increases to 40% when somebody falls behind on their bill. And of that 14%, 13% have actually attempted to take their own life because of the cost of living crisis. And on top of that, the number of people with full-time jobs becoming homeless is increasing. People are working hard, they're doing everything right. You can't keep up with the energy prices, the food prices, the rent prices. And I want you to have a think before you start commenting how these people mismanage their money, how these people do it to themselves. Why would these people actively choose to suffer?
I've been dreading this moment, and that is one of the bills of doom to come through the door. The water bill. Everybody that I've seen that's got their new water bill are fuming with it because it's gone up by over £200 a year. So let's see what mine's gone up by. Wow. So my bill last year was £490. And this year it's £664.16. Are you having a laugh? Are you actually having a laugh? How can they justify it? Like, seriously, there's 2 people that live in my house. 2 people. We're not going to use £664 worth of bloody water.
Let me know what you think in the comments. I read a lot of comments, and it's interesting to see people's difference in opinions.
I actually cannot believe we are seeing mainstream media actually reporting on this. Now look at this graph and tell me at the end of the video, do you think this is going to be a problem for our country? So the Telegraph are reporting on this graph, and it's about white British people who will become a minority in their own country within the next 40 years. That's exactly what this report is claiming. So as you can see, somewhere between 2060 and 2080, non-white people in Britain will overpopulate white British people. Now, you might not see this as a problem, but can you imagine this being Nigeria, where it was the other way around? The media would be up in arms. They'd be talking about it and how it's an invasion and how it's an ethnic cleansing of a country's people. But here in Britain, we're very tolerant, and we seem to have a lot of people who are still thinking with their feelings rather than facts. Facts that even the Telegraph, a mainstream media source, is reporting on. Now, we all know for the mainstream media to be saying something like this, a big shift has happened. And in my opinion, they're getting on board with how angry people are. They know that this country is in a massive decline. And even them, the corrupt mainstream media, cannot just sit in silence and let it happen. Now is time to take action. Let me know what you think on this.
This person said, those figures won't be the case. The future can and will be changed. He seems to be a proud and hopeful Brit, and I like his optimism. Let me know your thoughts. Is there still hope, or are we doomed?
Here's a fun little fact about how poor the UK is. Let's say you're a postman and you started investing into your pension in the year 2000, and you're born in the UK, and you've got a postman that was born in the USA started investing in exactly the same year. And let's say, for example, you only invested in your domestic stock market. So for the UK postman, he invested only in the FTSE. And for the US postman, he invested only in the S&P 500. At best, the US postman would be 4 times wealthier than the UK postman. And at worst, he would be 2.25 times as wealthy as the UK postman. This is purely because of how the FTSE has basically performed versus the S&P 500. If we take a purely price return basis, then the US postman would be 4 times wealthier. If we take a dividend and price return basis, then it would be 2.25 times as wealthy. But really it's just showing how badly wealth accumulation has occurred in the UK from capital markets. Now on the flip side, if he'd invested into property, it would probably be very, very similar. But property is an unproductive investment. It doesn't actually do anything. You just originate debt, throw it in the ground. Let's start moving more away from property and more to companies and real good capital investment that can get productivity flowing and get growth back, because that's what we desperately need.
How much is your gas and electricity bill, and who are you with? So we're with Scottish Power at the moment, and our last bill for that I've got to pay in the next few days is just short of £150, and that's for gas and electric combined for the month. We were on a direct debit and they wanted me to pay £350 a month, despite the fact that we weren't using £350 and we weren't using anywhere near that. I mean, even in the height of winter, we were only using £250 a month. But I was just looking at it today and I thought, it just seems a bit much, because during the day, I'm the only person home. My husband might come home for lunch, my daughter will come home for lunch, but she's in her room for the 45 minutes that she's in. And that's it, it's just me and the dogs. I work from home, I use my laptop so it's not plugged in unless it's charging, and the central heating's not on. I don't even, until it gets really, really cold, I don't even put the central heating on through the day when I'm working from home. So I think £150 a month is just a little bit too much. I'm sure I was only paying about £85 a month at this time of year last year and the year before. It seems to have gone up quite a lot. So what's everybody else paying at this time of year? Are you paying £150 as well? Or are you paying just the normal kind of £85? Because we don't have a tumble dryer, we don't have a dishwasher. So it's just the standard stuff that's on all the time, and I don't get why it's so much.
Ed Miliband. So he's planning to increase energy bills for people living in the wrong place. Now, yeah, you've read that right, you've heard that right, and it's only some Mickey Mouse bloke can think up things like this. So the government is considering zonal pricing with different electricity costs depending on where you live. Now, households face an unfair hike in electricity bills under a government plan to change the cost of energy depending on where you live. So experts have warned that this is something that Ed Miliband is considering under plans to introduce the zonal pricing. So that energy costs more in areas where demand is highest or there is a shortage of supply. The aim is to encourage major industries to locate plants where energy is available, cutting the need to build new, expensive infrastructure. But the former Labour leader was warned that ordinary households must be protected from higher bills. Now, the Director of Energy and Climate Change Policy with UK Steel said we are talking about some domestic consumers perhaps needing to be shielded. We are also talking about the fairness of whether consumers in the south have to pay higher energy bills compared to the north. Now, Andy Manning from the Citizens Advice have said households might benefit from a regional pricing scheme, but he said we have to remember that some consumers who cannot be flexible will need protected as well, and we have to make sure they are not worse off through that. This is just, yeah. I think they just wake up one morning and just think of ways they can hit people. As a government, they should be looking at areas of why there's a shortage and sorting that out. It shouldn't be at the cost of the taxpayer.
The previous government, they wanted to deport us, but now they make the procedure easier for us.
So you like the Labour government? Yes. Okay.
Give me house, give me anything I can need there, give me.
Just give it.
Yeah.
Britain is being invaded by illegal immigrants. 1,200 illegals arrived on Saturday alone. Where are all the women and children? Drink that front page in, everybody. Where are they? Where are they? Where are all the women and children? We've had 14,600 arrivals so far this year. We are on for 50,000 Channel migrants this year. Each one is reportedly going to cost us around 40 grand a year. So that's about 2 billion quid of your money, I think, and the rest. The French are doing nothing. okay? We've paid them £500 million to stand on the beaches and wave them off. We know they've got patrol boats waiting just offshore to carry these illegal migrants into British waters.
Look at what this comment says. We should be able to withhold our taxes. Let me know what you think about this one. Should we?
The British people have had enough. You know, people claim this is a Christian country, but yet the Christian values have been pushed aside. The government have pushed it aside, and what this country needs now is a great revival, a great belief in God, a great belief in Jesus.
Why are we scared of standing up for our own culture? You know, I'm a Christian. Why am I allowed to say I'm a Christian? Because I offend someone. Well, a lot of people offend me.
I'm not a racist, and I'm not against immigration either, and I'm not against people of colour. But what I do object to, what I'm strongly objecting to, is the way the government are allowing illegal immigrants coming into the country. That's why I'm here. Illegal immigrants, it's not right. £15 million a day, that's what they say it's costing us in illegal immigrants. Don't you find that a bit ludicrous?
This person commented, whilst the government are taking money off pensioners and the disabled, not to mention thousands of British citizens who are homeless. And I agree, it's an absolute joke. In 2025, an estimated 4,667 people were sleeping rough across England, a 20% increase from the previous year.
Welcome to another day in the Hunger Games. We're in Britain. If you post online, you get arrested. But if you're an actual criminal, nothing seems to get done. If you're an MP that spouts all these lies in your manifesto, and then you get put into government and you do none of them, and actually do the complete opposite, you don't get arrested. There's no consequences for those actions. I just think there needs to be more in place that if whatever you say in your manifesto should be legally binding. People literally going out there, voting, trusting you to run the country, to look after them, to delegate their money. Like, our tax-paying money is the reason they even have a job and can have budgets. And we trust them to do the right thing and just do what they said they was going to do. And that doesn't happen.
And there you have it, folks. Rising bills, rising taxes, and not enough rising outrage. If you're tired of these excuses and tired of the silence, like the video, subscribe to my channel and drop a comment. Let's keep this noise growing until they can no longer ignore us. Because at this point, even monopoly money might be worth more than the pound. See you in the next one.